More than 3 million Afghan refugees live here in Iran. Watch the video to hear about their life and challenges over here. Hello everyone and welcome. I hope all of you are having a nice day. I have more than 100 new subscribers since my last video, which is amazing. Thank you and welcome. And sorry for being so late. I've been through so much again, per usual, and I only record when I'm in a fairly good mood, which is often not the case, unfortunately. And if anyone is new here, please consider subscribing to watch more videos about Iran, Persian language, and me as an Iranian. With everything said, let's talk about our topic, Afghan refugees. As I said, there are 3 million of them living here in Iran, 1 million as registered refugees and the rest as illegal immigrants. First of all, what has brought them to Iran? In a nutshell, the Soviet-Afghan war in the 80s, the civil war that followed that, the US war, the Taliban, and of course unemployment. By the way, let me emphasize that these words are pronounced Afghanistan, Afghan, Taliban, etc. in Persian, in Iranian Persian, but it would be difficult to pronounce them that way in the middle of an English sentence, so I would say Afghan, Afghanistan, etc. Back to the brass tacks, most Afghans do not have an easy life over here, and here are some aspects of it. The Afghans who are currently in Iran are mostly lower middle class or poor, and honestly, even the most good-hearted person doesn't want poor people around. If you judge by any Western standards, we Iranians, most of us, are poor, but here we're talking a whole another level of poverty. As I said in another video on Iranian people's financial situation, even us Iranians are struggling to find proper jobs and are sometimes paid less than the legal minimum. But for Afghans, especially those who are not registered refugees, the situation is far worse. They are allowed to work only at certain jobs, mostly difficult manual jobs on construction sites, mining, agriculture, etc., and are paid very little, sometimes with no insurance. It's officially against the law, but no one seems to care. It's not easy, especially for illegal immigrants, to obtain Iranian citizenship. But why would they want to? Because they have to pay extra fees for everything. They can't possess houses or pieces of lands unless with the official permission from the government, which is very difficult to obtain. And as I've heard from some people, they can't even possess an Iranian SIM card or open a bank account without too much hassles. However, if an Afghan woman marries an Iranian man, she'll obtain the Iranian citizenship. But if an Afghan guy marries an Iranian woman, he won't get the citizenship, but their children can. Generally speaking, Afghans do not get the nicest treatment from most Iranians. And as far as I can remember, sometimes when people want to talk about a really bad place, they say something about Afghanistan, like, even in Afghanistan they have this or that, which is ironic because at the moment their currency is worth more than ours, thanks to our lovely politicians. And they can have easy international shipment to and from their country, which we can't. They can have PayPal accounts, credit cards, etc., which we can't, and the list goes on. So as unreasonable as it might sound, Afghanistan isn't considered a very nice place over here, which leads to a great amount of explicit racism. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I don't have a racist bone in my body, because everyone has some biases or prejudices. Actually, I read somewhere that the ultimate test to see whether you have a certain amount of racism against any minorities or countries, whatever, is asking yourself, will I ever date or marry one of them? The answer is often no, but what matters the most, in my opinion, is the way you treat them. I mean, you never ever find me calling Afghans names or making fun of their accent or staring at them with contempt, which are all things that many Iranians do on a daily basis. Let me give you an example. A few years ago, there was this queue for something where two Afghan women were standing too. Suddenly, I heard an Iranian woman say, "Afghans have literally ruined this country," on top of her lungs, intentionally so that those two women could hear it. I couldn't say anything because all those Karens would have attacked me physically, but I just gave her an angry look. But I wish I could say, okay, imagine they all live tomorrow morning. Then who would work at the most difficult jobs with little or no payments? Your lazy bones sons? I mean, when you're literally using them as cheap labor, at least shut your mouth. One of the reasons for all these negative attitudes towards Afghans is that during the past few decades, some crimes have been committed by Afghans, and some of them were even executed over here. Of course, Iranians commit crimes too, but you know, when it's a foreigner, people get much angrier. A large Afghan community lives here in Isfahan, and I see many of them around here because I don't live in a very rich neighborhood. But up until last year, I'd never had any communication or even a conversation with Afghans because I feel like they just want to be left alone because they get enough disturbances and contemptuous looks from Iranians. But what happened last year? There's this Afghan family living as tenants near us. Last year when the lockdowns started over here, one day my mom told me that this Afghan woman had come to our door and asked, can your daughter come and help my daughter with her studies because she's crying because her dad isn't home, he works in another province and I'm illiterate. So I went there and helped the little girl a little bit. She was really shy and silent, and her mom brought me tea and all sorts of fruits and thanked me so much. And since then, we greet every time we see each other on the street. She's very polite and always smiles. Also, a few times they asked for my dad's national ID card to buy this, I don't remember what, on this governmental subsidy, which we finally agreed to, although we were a bit hesitant because, you know, it's a national ID card and if something happens, you'd be in big trouble. But sometimes you just have to follow your heart. Now, have I seen anything negative from them? As honest as I am, most Afghan families here have a lot of little kids. This family have 4. And they're on the street most of the time, playing with other noisy Afghan kids, sometimes even in the afternoon when most of us Iranians are taking siestas. And usually they're eating something and leaving some garbage on the street. Actually, once I called out the little girl on this, gently of course, but other than that, not really. We haven't had any problems with them. Those little girls are really pretty and I'd love to ask their mom if I could take a photo and share it with you, but I didn't think she would like the idea, so I didn't even ask. First and foremost, my sincere apologies to all Afghans for anything bad they might have gone through here in Iran. I hope someday they can be in a country where they have a better life. And also I hope things will change for the better in Afghanistan sooner rather than later. And I want all of us to remember that few people are willing to leave their home, their loved ones, or their country unless they have to. So let's be a little nicer towards refugees or immigrants and treat them the way we would want to be treated as refugees or immigrants. That was it, guys. Thank you for watching. Share your thoughts with me down below, and I hope I see you soon. Goodbye.